This is the Reviewing Network Live, a weekly stream of consciousness recording session where I sit back with you folks out there, talk about some of the big news stories from the past week, and some other things I found that might be of amusement to you out there. I think you might get a kick out of it. Now, these are more like audio podcasts and are much longer than my usual videos and are also, for the most part, unedited and will contain some foul language. So, if you're easily offended by that, I advise you to maybe step back a bit, maybe go somewhere else. But hey, if you're up to the challenge, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Thanks. And for the 95th time ever, we are live on the Reviewing Network studios. And hello, everybody, and welcome to the first episode of the Reviewing Network Live for the summer of 2025. Summer just happened on Thursday. It's now the summer solstice has come and gone, and that means we are now officially in the summer season. And boy, the weather has certainly been feeling very much like what a summer season should be like. Today was like 92 degrees here. It's going to get worse before it gets better. It's supposed to be 90 all week long up here. And considering that we had a thing to go to earlier today, and it was outside, even though we were under the shade, I'm exhausted, man. I mean, it's been a long, long day. But the good news is, this was kind of my plan to have kind of a relaxed show this week because because we are getting to the halfway point of the year. So I figured this would be the time to do my best and worst movies of the year so far list, and then next week will be the State of the Reviewing Network address, the State of the Reviewing Network, where I talk about some of the big things we've got coming up. Next week, you'll also see a sneak preview of some stuff I'm working on, including the Siskel and Ebert unauthorized documentary. But we will get to all that in good time here. So, with all that said, let's get right into what we usually start off with here, and that is, of course, the weekend box office, which is a very interesting box office, to say the least, especially with the two new releases. But let's get to the stuff that's already been out. Still hanging in there at number 5, Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning, set $6.5 million, brought in $178.3 million total. The worldwide gross now is up to $540 million, and but the most important thing that happened with this movie is that it surpassed Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1. Of course, we all know the story about why that movie didn't perform very well, but this film has had better legs than Dead Reckoning has had, and thus the box office is definitely a whole lot better for this film. So it's still not great overall considering the $400 million budget this has, but Paramount will take what they can get with it. So moving on to number 4, Lilo and Stitch. $9.7 million this week, bringing its 5-week total to $386.7 million. If you count worldwide numbers, it has crossed $900 million, $910.3 million. So Disney is doing good on that front there, and they need that because number 3 this week, not a good weekend for a new Disney release, and not even that, not just only that, but a new Pixar release too. Number 3. Elio, or Elio, I guess in the trailer he says it as Elio, but I say it as Elio because that's what everyone else has been saying. But Elio, this film unfortunately has not performed well. $21 million. Now, I want to say something before we move on to what I think about the box office overall for this. In my review, I've clearly put the blame on the audiences for not going to see the movie, but then again, I probably should have also made it clear that Disney did not do a very good job of marketing this movie whatsoever, and considering that they started the marketing 2 years ago when this thing was supposed to open up in the month of March of 2024, and they had a trailer out around the time Elemental came out, and I'll talk more about Elemental because this is very similar to what's going to happen here, but yeah, this was a much different looking movie when that first trailer came out with Elemental, and of course the actor strike happened. Then directors left the project, and so they brought in Domi Shi from Turning Red to redo the film overall, and they had actually replaced some actors in here, but yeah, the marketing for this was all over the place, and I really don't think Disney, I really don't know what it is, because we know Disney can market the hell out of their movies when it's a franchise film. But then when it comes to original films, which we've been clamoring for an original movie out there to become a hit. We just had one with Sinners not too long ago. And yet this is the way they promote this original project here. It's just like, Disney, do you realize that that you needed Pixar more than they needed you? I mean, keep in mind, Pixar was about to go to another studio 20 years ago, and then Disney realized that, oh shit, we can't do this on our own. We need help, and so they eventually brought the deal back in place when Bob Iger realized that at Shanghai Disneyland's grand opening, they realized that the Pixar characters were getting more of a response than the Disney characters, and thus the rest is history. And of course, that's where they have been at since then. But ever since the pandemic came back, their movies have not performed well. But then again, it doesn't help when the first 3 movies after COVID go straight to Disney Plus. Soul, Luca, Turning Red, all good movies, but there's just no demand there. By not putting it in theaters and telling people to go watch it on Disney Plus, that's not good for a movie that costs over $100+ million to make. And here's another one of those movies where it has a big budget. There was a lot of rumblings that it was probably $300 million because of the changes in directions and the production difficulties, but that has since been long defunct and not true at all. And it's only half that with $150 million, which it's not great, but it certainly is a lot better than a $300 million movie. Because this would have been something where Pixar would have considered considering severing their ties with Disney, which I don't know, they could still probably do considering how badly they've kind of treated them when it's not a sequel series a sequel or franchise in general. But I don't know, maybe I'm just overthinking that. But the reason why I bring up Element is Elio bought in $21 million. If you count the worldwide grosses for the weekend so far, $35 million, and not off to the greatest start for this film. But there is some good news. Really good news, because like with Elemental 2 summers ago, which also opened pretty badly, and even though Elio has opened up with the worst opening in Pixar history, the word of mouth on this movie has been really good. The audiences have been responsive. Critics have really enjoyed the movie. On Metacritic, it has an A, which is really solid for this movie. I think it's actually a little bit higher than Elemental is. And the good news for this movie is that there's really not a lot of kids' family competition until we get to the Smurfs on July 18th. So this thing still has a good 4 weeks to make at least somewhat of to continue to have legs all across the board. And that's exactly what happened to Elemental. Elemental had opened up poorly to a $29 million opening two summers ago, but then the audiences kept coming back to it, and it actually did become a big hit overall, and actually did make a lot of money at the box office in the long run. So it did work out eventually, and I feel like Elio's going to have that same thing too. I think there will be more people that will be turning on to this movie and coming into it as well, and I think it will help to get the money back over in general. But I really think Disney needs to examine their marketing campaign people when it comes to original stuff, because when it's their sequels, when it's their live action movies, when it's their Marvel movies, they apparently put all the money into that. But then when you have stuff like the original movies, they really don't seem to do a whole lot on the marketing front, and it really just kind of hurts the flow of the movie and just keeps it from making any kind of profit whatsoever. And I think people will come to see this movie. I don't think it's going to do the same type of numbers that Elemental does, but I do think the audiences will eventually find their way back over to this, and this will have legs going forward. And I think this will do very well over the course of the next couple of weeks, especially considering the lack of family film kid animated competition for them. I mean, Jurassic World I know we have Jurassic World and Superman coming out in the next couple of weeks, but that really should not hurt the movie in general. Box office potential in general. I think this will have the same type of legs that Elemental had. I don't think it's going to have the same numbers, but I think Ilios will be okay overall. It won't be a flop overall, but I think it will make its money back as time goes on. This isn't like another Snow White or what happened with Thunderbolts, because apparently everyone thought Thunderbolts was a profitable film for Marvel. Not so much, apparently, because it's apparently they've lost $100 million on that. Just like. It's funny how Disney is still the top studio at the box office, and yet when it comes to their most reliable sources, they're not making the money for them in general. But I do think Elio is going to find its way. It's going to find its audience. It's going to find its way over the summer. I think it will stick around in the top 5 for at least the next 3-4 weeks. I really do have a good feeling about that one. But But then you have the other big new release this weekend, which is it's a different topic of discussion for a number of different bizarre reasons. Number two, 28 Years Later, which benefited from a good marketing campaign. The trailers for this one actually looked pretty good, but then people went to go see the movie, and when they came out of it, they were just like, what the fuck was that? And including myself as well, it's just kind of like, what the hell was that? It's just like, really? Like, that's the way you decided to go with it? Because this movie, yeah, granted, it made the most money out of the 28 Days Later series, but it's a good time to be a horror movie right now. We've seen it with Final Destination Bloodlines. We saw it with Sinners. This is another one of those movies where it is very successful. It brought in $30 million. If you count the worldwide numbers, it has already made back its $60 million budget. So it has already made its profit back at the box office. And it's going to make profit for Sony Pictures and also for Danny Boyle and Company. And it's going to get kind of and maybe get the buzz building on the next movie that comes out in January. One would hope. But you also have to keep in mind of how the film was presented, because this is a really weird arranging of how people look at this movie. Because on Rotten Tomatoes it has an 89%, which is really good, and Metacritic has a 76 out of 100, which is actually not that bad, and it has a B on CinemaScore, which is not really much of a surprise considering it's a horror film in general. But at the same time, most audiences that you talk to and most reviewers, if you go on to like Jeremy Johns and Double Toasted, they talked about this movie. They really did not like it as much as the Rotten Tomatoes and Metacritic numbers are saying. Like, especially because of the massive tonal shifts, the ending that was one of the biggest insults you will ever see in your life, and it's just kind of like the ending of this movie I think is really the thing that's going to really dampen the box office going forward for this. Like, they were good enough to get their overall budget back thanks to worldwide grosses, but I really think this is going to crash and burn pretty quickly, especially considering all the stuff that's coming out over the next couple of weeks. As I mentioned before, Jurassic World and Superman, but next week you've got two high-profile movies, F1 and Megan 2.0. I think this is going to come and go, and yeah, they made their money back overall, but this thing's not cracking $100 million. It really is not. I really don't think, domestically it's not going to hit $100 million, but it'll probably hit it worldwide. But Sony's not having a really good year either. I mean, they had Karate Kid Legends, which did okay numbers, but they were probably expecting Ghostbusters numbers, and they just didn't get them with that. But I mean, like I said, the movie, with 28 Years Later, it's one of those things where it's just like, the movie started off pretty good. The acting overall is good, but the rest of the film and how the second act just completely dismantled any hope of this movie turning out to be great, that really ruined it and made it one of my picks for the worst movie of the year, one of the worst movies of the year. This is really one of the worst movies I've seen this year, just because of the fact that they took that second half collapse that I haven't. It's like watching a implosion and seeing the movie and seeing the building just come tumbling down. That's what that second half feels like. And I'll delve more into this in a little bit here, because we're gonna get to my best and worst movies of the year so far in just a little bit. But another movie that will definitely be on that worst of the year list, number one this week, which is How to Train Your Dragon. The live-action remake nobody was asking for, one of the most pointless remakes ever. A shot-for-shot remake, which is not really a shot-for-shot remake because we added 30 minutes of footage of this. But I think audiences are not really receptive to this one because, it surpassed its $150 million budget domestically, $160 million after a $37 million opening weekend, second weekend this weekend. If you count worldwide numbers, it's up to $358 million, but it dropped 56% from last week. And for a family film, in a weekend when Elio wasn't the big profitable hit that the box office was hoping for, I mean, Elio did take a good chunk of that money away from How to Train Your Dragon. That's why I'm more optimistic about Elio making more money as time goes on, and How to Train Your Dragon is just kind of simmer down here and just kind of get on out of here for the bigger stuff in general. I think it'll cost $200 million, of course, but I don't think it's going to cost $300 million or anything. And yeah, it's just, like I said last week, it's really a pointless live-action remake, and it just didn't do nothing new that it didn't do anything new that made this something that had to be made. It just wasn't there. It just was not there for that movie. But overall, not a great box office weekend overall, but it is what it is. And so that does lead us into next weekend, where, of course, the two biggest new releases are going to be F1 the movie, the Brad Pitt film, which has a surprisingly impressive stack of, like, marketing all over the place. It's like KFC has a sponsorship with it. What was another one? Heineken. Well, then again, it's also directed by the same guy that did Top Gun Maverick, and so they're expecting that to do. There's a little bit of an expectation now because that guy made one of the more successful legacy sequels of recent memory, and you got Brad Pitt in there. I think if I'm not mistaken, this might be Brad Pitt's first movie since he won the Oscar for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood 6 years ago. I think it is, because I don't think I've seen him in anything since then, unless I'm completely missing something here. Let me see. Oh yeah, he's been in stuff. Well, of course, yeah, he's actually been in a lot more stuff. I don't know why. I just thought for some stupid reason, I thought that Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was the last thing that I saw him in a leading role. But no, he's been in some other stuff too. Stuff I should know that he's in. Ad Astra, The Lost City, Bullet Train, Babylon, If, what else? Wolves he was in. So yeah, forget I said anything pretty much, because I don't know what the hell I was talking about. But F1 though is a movie that is getting a lot of hype and a lot of anticipation, but it does have a $200 million budget to it, and this is an Apple original film, which if you've seen the last couple of years, Apple original films do not do good business at the box office. So can this movie, with its impressive marketing campaign, and it's, driving on the fact that it's Brad Pitt and Joseph Kosinski, once again, like, is this a movie that can actually turn the tide and actually become a profitable hit for Apple? I don't think it's going to. I think it's going to do decent numbers. It's probably going to mostly get its money from worldwide numbers because, 35 to 40 million is what they're projecting for this movie in particular. I've even seen some that say that Megan 2.0 may actually beat it out in the long run, because Megan 2.0 is coming out the same weekend. There's been a lot of buzz on that movie. It's got they're saying 30 million on that one as well. I mean, I think it'll be like this weekend. I think it's going to be very close, but I think Megan 2.0 might just have a little bit of the edge to it because the first movie was so popular and they're putting this out in the summertime. Like, this is something that they really do believe is going to be a gangbuster hit in general, and I mean, it looks like they're having a lot of fun with the marketing for this. So I don't know. I think it's going to be really close. I would give the slight edge to Megan 2.0 right now, but I would not be shocked at all if F1 wins it in the end. I think it's going to be really close on which one opens up. I think it's going to be very interesting to see which of these two films will open at the top spot next weekend. But I'm putting the money right now on Megan 2.0, but I will not be shocked at all if it is F1. I almost lost my thought on what the movie was I was going to talk about, but then, of course, after that, it's all about the stacked July, because, July is packed with big blockbusters. I mean, 4th of July weekend, you got Jurassic World Rebirth, Superman on July 11th, and then, of course, the Smurfs, man. Smurfs are going to be big in July, which, considering the lack of family films coming up, it could be that, but, then, of course, you got Fantastic Four, which they're really doing a good job of building the marketing on that movie. So, this is going to be a very good July. It just depends on which ones are going to come out on top, but that's something that we'll delve into in the weeks to come. So with all that said, let's go ahead and move on to the segment I want to get to here, talking about the year in movies thus far. So we are almost officially at the halfway point of the year, pretty much, and 2025 has actually been a pretty solid year overall for movies. There have been some surefire misfires, and we're going to get to those very soon, but there was a lot of good stuff that came out over the course of the first 6 months of the year, and I just want to do I want to make this show about the best and worst movies of the year so far, and I could wait until next week, but then, of course, next week is the State of the Reviewing Network, so I'll talk more about that at the end here, But let's get to it. Let's start off with the best movies of 2025 for me so far. Now, what's different about this list in particular for both the best and worst movies is that I'm including movies from 2024, but I'm including movies that most people didn't get to see in 2024, didn't even know about until after 2024 was over. There's there's several movies on this list where, I've always said that it sucks making these lists when I have to make them like before the year ends, because there are a lot of movies I do miss out on, and there was a lot of good movies that I missed out on, last year, and I figured, you know what, this year I'm going to do something different with it. I'm going to go ahead and include those movies on the list that I have here of the best and worst movies of the year. So yeah, there are going to be some 2024 movies in here, but it's my first time seeing these movies in 2025. I mean, Gene Siskel and Roger Ebert did it back in the day with their top 10 list. So I figure, what the hell, do it with my two. So let's start off with the best movies of the year so far. And there are actually two honorable mentions on this list here. And one of them is the aforementioned Elio, which I thought started off slow, but once the kid got abducted into space and went on this adventure, that's where the movie really began to take off, and you really do start to enjoy the atmosphere, the animation, and the great chemistry between Elio and the alien character. A good cast overall here. Zoe Saldana playing his aunt, and then Brad Garrett playing the son, the father of the alien creature. And like I said, really good imagery all across the board. Very well done. Very good film overall. Hopefully it will find its audience over the course of the summer in general. But another honorable mention here is The Last Showgirl, which is of course the Pamela Anderson redemption movie. Because yeah, this is a movie that really shows that Pamela Anderson is really going to do everything she can to make you believe that she actually can be a really good actress. And she pays it off big time in this movie. This is a really good film that shines on this really good performance by Pamela Anderson, showing a potential for a rebirth in her acting career. And I really do think she should have been a contender for the Oscars this year. But then again, it was a stacked year for, actresses in general. But it also had a good cast overall. Jamie Lee Curtis was pretty good. Dave Bautista, Jason Schwartzman, Brenda Song. It's a sleek, stylish, cool-looking feel. Gia Coppola really does get to show what she can do. And, she's made two other movies beforehand that I really wasn't a big fan of. But this is definitely a movie where I feel like she really does get a chance to shine. And she makes it work here. This is a film that's definitely worth checking out. You can watch it on Hulu. And hopefully it'll come out on DVD and Blu-ray soon. I think it should be coming very soon. But I don't know when. But hopefully within the next couple of months. Definitely check it out on Hulu if you want to see it early. But those are my two honorable mentions. So let's just go ahead and get to now my current top 10 list for the best movies of 2025 so far. Starting off with number 10 on my list, we have Magazine Dreams. Now, if you don't know this movie, this was the film that Jonathan Majors was set to star in at the end of 2023 after he was supposed to have his big breakout year playing, who was he in that? Playing, why can't I remember his name now? Who was he in Ant-Man and the Wasp? Kang the Conqueror. I should know that, but he was supposed to be it was supposed to be his year after playing Kang in Ant-Man and the Wasp, and then Creed 3. But then, of course, there was all that controversy surrounding Majors' career. Not his career, but the abuse allegations that he found himself in. And, of course, the actors strike forced Searchlight Pictures to drop the film in general. And now, after all this time, it's finally coming out by Briarcliff Entertainment, and they grabbed a winner here because, yeah, this is a really good movie. It has Major starring as a social outcast bodybuilder, Killian Maddox, whose dream of becoming a bodybuilder consumes his entire life. His depression and aggressive tendencies consume him, and his obsession becoming a Mr. Olympia champion brings him to a complete mental breakdown. And it does show that Jonathan Majors is a great actor, and this is one of those movies that probably would have gotten him an Oscar nomination had Fox had released it. But, of course, they didn't do that because of what had happened, and it's a movie that I feel like is going to get lost in the shuffle because it's coming out early in March. And it's a shame because it is a really good movie. It's a film that works very well and plays to the strengths of this actor as a whole, and it works very well. He does give you a really good, intense performance, and in a film that is very reminiscent at times to something like The Substance, except not going into crazy body humor territory. But it is an interesting character study on this guy in general who once famed so much, and then all of a sudden, basically he goes a little bit too, he takes it too far to the point where, he's ruining his life in general. It's an interesting character study. It's an impressive put together film. It's a really good movie. It's one you should definitely look for out there. It's a film that did not get enough attention. It came and went at the box office, but it's a film that's worth checking out. Definitely recommend it. Magazine Dreams, number 10 on my list of the best movies of the year so far. Coming in at number 9, we have Final Destination Bloodlines, which is one of the biggest, really is one of the biggest surprises of the year, because who would have guessed that a Final Destination movie entering its 6th film in the series would be up there with the original Final Destination as the best in the series. I mean, this is a sequel that doesn't feel like a cash grab, but feels like it was made by people who clearly understood and loved the Final Destination films and know what it means to make it fun. And I like the added layer of that this time it's centering around this family that's basically should not be there because the grandmother saw a premonition in the future and premonition from the past when she cheated death, and essentially what is going on right now should not be happening. And this is just such a good, fun movie with fun, over-the-top depths, a really good storyline tying back to the past, and giving Tony Todd a great send-off as Bloodworth. I mean, this is a film that is just, it plays so well to the advances of the Final Destination series in general, and it's the second best in the series, behind the original film, honestly. And it makes me excited to see what these directors will do next year. I was really impressed with what they did with it, especially considering that they had never done a previous Final Toy Boat. They had not done another Final Destination series before this. In fact, they had mostly been known for, like, the last thing these guys did was the Kim Possible live-action Disney Channel movie. Think about that. Like, they went from that to this in 16 years. I don't know about you, but that is some impressive stuff right there. And I say, let's see let these guys cook. Let's see what they can do going forward. And surely there's probably going to be another movie series down the road here, but it looks like they're going to be smart with it this time around. It looks like they're going to go back to what they did with the original series beforehand, essentially letting time pass, letting these movies stew a little bit, and then eventually go on and do another film in general, which I think we can all look forward to that down the road. I'm really looking forward to see what they do next. Final Destination Bloodlines, number 9 on my list of my best movies of 2025 so far. Speaking of movies that came out of nowhere, where the hell did number 8 come from? Starting the year off with a bang, One of Them Days with Keke Palmer and SZA starring as two friends who must scramble to find rent money after one of their boyfriends blows through it. It's a comedy that's essentially in the same vein as something like Friday. Like it feels like the Next Generation Friday, except replace Ice Cube and Chris Tucker with Keke Palmer and SZA, and made by a lot of people who haven't really done a whole lot in general before this. Lawrence Lamont is mostly known for directing music videos, and Sarita Singleton worked on shows like Central Park, Insecure, Black Monday. This is her first feature script in general, and everyone in this movie did a really damn good job. This is a really good cast. You buy into the relationship as friends between Keke Palmer and SZA. They work off each other so well. Lil Rel Howery, Cat Williams, Maude Apatow, Janelle James, Gabrielle Dennis, just a terrific cast in here. It works. It's a really, really fun movie. A lot of good laughs all across the board. There's just a lot to admire about this movie in general. They're making a sequel to this too. I really don't know for certain how. Hopefully this turns out better than is as good as the original, if not better. But it's a comedy sequel. We will, more times than not, I think we know the direction that they go in. But I'm willing to give it the benefit of the doubt. One of Them Days, number 8 on my list. At number 7, we have the return of Paddington. Paddington in Peru, which was released early in the year in February, and kind of came and went. I mean, it still made a lot of money here, but it definitely does not have the same spark as the original two movies, which then again, you don't have the same director in Paul King working on this film, and so yeah, it's going to lose a little bit of its muster, but considering how great the first two movies are and how this one is still really good in the long run, I don't think it really hurts the film in general. I think they still capture a lot of the magic and the charm of these characters. You do get invested in everybody in here, and you do like the fact that they're going on this big adventure in Peru to find his Paddington's aunt, and it just works so well. I think it's a very good film overall. It still has a lot of stuff that makes the original movie so special and so well done. I mean, these movies remind me a lot of the Babe films. I mean, the first Babe is a classic film, but nobody talks about Babe 2, Pig in the City, which is one of the most criminally underrated sequels of all time. I mean, that's a great sequel that's worth checking out. And the Paddington movies are kind of on that same track as well. Like, of course, now there's more than one movie than what Babe had, but Paddington in Peru was still very fun all across the board. I still enjoyed the hell out of it. It's why it's number 7? 7, yeah, number 7 on my list. I lost my train of thought there for a second. And at number 6, we have Wallace and Gromit: Vengeance Most Foul, which was the first major new release of the new year. And the return of Wallace and Gromit in a new adventure as basically Feathers McCrack from The Wrong Trousers, or Feathers McGraw. I thought it was McCrack, but it might be McGraw. But Feathers McGraw comes back after after The Wrong Trousers, the last appearance he was in 32 years ago, and it leads into a big adventure between Wallace and Gromit and him. And it's your first chance to hear Ben Whitehead in a full feature-length performance as Wallace, and he knocks it out of the park, and the magic is still there with Wallace and Gromit, man. Like, when these... Excuse me. When these two still get together, it's still a ton of fun. It's still impressive claymation. I mean, this is still a really good movie. It's not as good as Curse of the Were-Rabbit, which I still think is a great movie all across the board, but it's Wallace and Gromit, man. They have never done anything wrong, and sure enough, they don't do wrong here. This is a great film, a terrific film. Wallace and Gromit, Vengeance Most Foul. What can you say? Number 6 on the list. Moving on to number 5, and boy, this was one of last year's most underrated movies. How the hell did nobody tell me about Better Man? This is the musical biopic based on the life of Robbie Williams, the singer Robbie Williams, and instead of it being him, he's being played as an anthropomorphic chimpanzee using motion capture, and this is one of the most enjoyable musical biopics I've seen in a long, long time. And it comes from the same director who made The Greatest Showman, which has great music, but the movie kind of sucks. I mean, the movie is not that great in general, but the soundtrack for that movie is amazing. And this is the one where he gets it right on the nose on every single level. I haven't had this much fun with a musical biopic since Rocket Man. Like, we've had so many safe and marketable, bland biopics that seem like they're going to tell the whole story, but then in reality they tell the story that they want to tell because they don't want to piss off the families of these people making them movies by talking about their serious ones here. But I like the fact that this movie goes all in, balls to the wall, and just has the time of their life with it. It's a fun, slick, over-the-top musical experience that I haven't had in a long, long time. One of the most bizarre concepts for a musical ever, but goddamn, it's one of the best music biopics I've ever seen. Seek Better Man out. It's bizarre, it's over-the-top, it's crazy, but I loved every single minute of it. Number 5 on my list, Robbie Williams' Better Man. Coming in at number 4, Steven Soderbergh is back in the scene with one of his 2 movies in 2025. That is Black Bag, in which you have Michael Fassbender as a British intelligence officer who's assigned to investigate a list of suspected traitors, one of which is his wife, played by Cate Blanchett. And, you know, this is a script written by David Koepp. You've got Steven Soderbergh, David Koepp, Cate Blanchett, and Michael Fassbender. You got a great movie here. I mean, this is one of the most slickest, stylist, and coolest looking spy thrillers I've seen in recent years. I mean, it's a story that really isn't anything too original or too groundbreaking, but when it delivers, man, it delivers really well. And I think this is one of Steven Soderbergh's better movies in general. And it just works because the chemistry between Fassbender and Blanchett just is so good. Like, that's the reason why the movie sticks so well, because you see these two playing this game with one another, and you really don't know how it's going to play out in the end. Like, who's going to be the one to crack first? Like, who's going to make that one fatal mistake? And it just works on so many levels. It's a great spy thriller. It's a great drama about marriage. It's a really, really impressively made film. That was one of those movies in March that came out and did not make any kind of money whatsoever. This was a flop, but it's a film that definitely deserves to be seen out there. Black Bag definitely is one of the best movies of the year, and definitely is one that should be sought out. Number 4 on my list of the best movies of the year, Black Bag. Number 3, another movie that was not that I did not see in 2024, but it came out then, and that is Flow, which was, of course, this year's Best Animated Feature Oscar winner from Latvia. And you know, I was a little bit upset that the Wild Robot didn't win, because that's my favorite movie from last year, but Flow is freaking amazing, man. This is a movie that this is the type of movie that I wish more studios would make. An animated movie where there's no dialogue, and you follow this one cat just trying to survive a post-apocalyptic world along with these other animals as the water levels just keep rising and rising, and it's just such a fascinating movie to see. And like, like, you wonder, why did this movie win best? You wonder to yourself, why did this movie win Best Animated Feature? It doesn't really seem like there's a whole lot there to really give it that edge or something like that. You really need to see this movie to admire the genius and the beauty of it. It is one of the most awe-inspiring movie-watching experiences that you will ever have with a film. It doesn't matter if you're not a big animation lover. This is the reason why animation is so important and so special to people, because animation makes this one of the more enjoyable movie makes this such an enjoyable movie experience that I don't think live action could really do with this per se. And it's funny because this movie feels like the big screen adaptation of that. There was a video game that came out not too long ago called Stray, I think it is. It's the game where you play like a cat, and it's the same type of story where you have a cat that is in this walled city populated by robots, machines, and mutant bacteria, and you go on this adventure. And I really do feel like that's the movie they were trying to make. It felt like they were trying to make that type of a movie, and Flow just kind of beat them to it, man. I mean, I don't think you could really make that feature film adaptation of that film, but Flow pretty much already did it for you. So yeah, it's already too late on that front there. So, but it's definitely one to check out. You can find it on streaming. It's on. I mean, it should be on HBO Max, but it is coming out on Criterion on physical media in August. You know good and goddamn well I'm going to be getting a copy of that, because this is one of my favorite films of the year so far. Flow, number 3 on my list. Number 2, a 2D animated Looney Tunes movie finally getting released in theaters because Warner Brothers wanted nothing to do with the Looney Tunes. Thank God for Ketchup Entertainment, because they have saved the Looney Tunes in every way, shape, or form. We'll talk about why again in the second part of this, but The Day the Earth Blew Up, a Looney Tunes movie, number 2 on the list. This is the spin-off of the Looney Tunes cartoon series, created by the same man who made that series, and it features Daffy, Porky, and Petunia saving the world from a chewing gum-based alien scheme, and it's basically a sci-fi B-movie from the 50s, mixed in with a lot of modern elements. And man, this was a movie that I did everything in my power to go see this on a big screen, and it was more than worth it. This is one of the best movie-going experiences I've had in a long time, seeing a big screen 2D animated Looney Tunes movie on the big screen. But yeah, it's a great movie, man. It's a movie that I wish there was more of. I wish somebody would not be afraid of the financial responsibility, the financial restrictions of releasing a movie like this 2D animation is dead. Animation is dead in general. But no, this movie, and the fact that everybody did everything in their power to get this movie to become somewhat profitable, for Ketchup Entertainment to go ahead and call Warner Brothers and say, hey, you're not going to release Coyote vs. Acme. We'll take it off your hands. We've shown that we can definitely sell this movie to more people than you could have ever done. And so, because this movie made the money, we're finally going to get to see Coyote vs. Acme. But not even because of that, why this movie is great. The movie is just good, fun, all across the board. A movie where it's just Daffy and Porky and Petunia, and no other Looney Tunes characters whatsoever show up in here. The animation is top-notch. The comedy is great. The looniness is all over the place. The visuals are incredible. The music is great. A mixing of classic music mixed in with modern music. I mean, it's the REM's It's the End of the World playing in here, and it does not feel like it's forced in there. It plays a part in the storyline, and is right behind. It benefited by a really, really good animated segment overall in this. The whole movie is just great fun all around, and just what more can I say, man? The Day the Earth Blew Up, a Looney Tunes movie, is one of the year's biggest achievements. It's number 2 on my list of the best movies of the year. But what is number 1? Well, let's go ahead and take a look, but I think you get a good sense of what it is. The best movie of 2025 so far, and the movie to possibly be the number 1 movie of the year, Sinners. I mean, what more can you say about this film that hasn't already been said? Michael B. Jordan starring in 2 roles where he plays twin brothers who return to their hometown to start again when they are confronted by a supernatural evil, basically vampires. And you have Haley Steinfeld, Jack O'Connell, Omar Miller, Delroy Lindo, and a young performer, Miles Catton, who's on his way to becoming a big star, if this movie's any indication. But it's a Ryan Coogler and Michael B. Jordan original high-concept vampire thriller that, for anyone that says originality is dead, here's a movie that not only did everything you can ask for and then some, but just created one of the more impressive and visual movie-going experiences that you will never forget. This is one of the highlights of the decade so far, and that movie that will definitely be talked about as one of the best films of the decade. When we get to 2030, when the whole decade is all said and done, this is a movie that we're going to look back on and realize that this really was one of the crowning achievements of the decade. And hopefully the Academy will remember this film come Oscar time. And the fact that it's opening very early on in the year, and you know how the Academy Awards likes to not completely avoid movies that weren't released before July. Hopefully that won't be the case with this one. The word of mouth, the box office, the critical acclaim, there's no reason why Sinners should not be considered one of the best pictures of the year at the Oscars, because it's the best movie of the year so far. No question about it. So the next 6 months worth of movies, Sinners is the film that you're going to have to try to stop as the top movie of the year for me, because this movie was one of my favorite film of the year so far, and it's going to be really, really hard to top with that one. So there you go. That is the best movie of 2025, Sinners. What about the worst movies of the year? Now, the worst movie of the year list is one that I know is going to get a lot of people angry at me for saying some of these movies I'm about to talk about here deserve to be on this list, but I'm sorry. Some of the biggest hits of the year are going to be on this list. Specifically, the biggest release of the year so far, the highest grossing film of the year, which that should give you an indication of what that movie is. But there are only 10 movies on this list so far of the worst movies I've seen so far this year. And start off with one of the biggest disappointments from early on in the year, which was number 10, Wolfman. Blumhouse Studios doing what we've been asking them to do for the longest time. Reinvent the classic Universal monster movies. Do that and make us forget about the Dark Universe movies. And you failed to do that with this film. You did it with The Invisible Man. But The Wolfman, I don't know what the hell you guys were thinking on that one. Like, the concept is good. A slow burn movie where you have this family that's being attacked by the Wolfman, and one of them the father gets scratched and bitten, and he eventually will turn into the Wolfman, and eventually the whole movie is leading up to him becoming the Wolfman. But then at the end, when you finally see what this thing looks like, and it looks even worse than the one that was at Halloween Horror Nights last year, which did not look like a Wolfman at all. It did not look like a Wolfman at all. I mean, he looks like a freaking crackhead. I mean, that's literally what it looks like. He doesn't look like somebody who's the Wolfman in general, but on top of that, like, Universal, are you just trying to make everyone forget how great the Wolfman transformation in American Werewolf in London is? Because you seem like you want us to forget how great that is. Because every single time that anyone tries to do the Wolfman, it's got to be CG effects and not practical effects, and like it's just like you're never gonna top that transformation in American Werewolf in London. You're just never gonna do that, and sadly, this one might be the worst one ever. If I have to say that Jacob from Twilight in New Moon is a better Wolfman than the Wolfman in this movie, then you have a massive, massive problem there, buddy. Yeah, this is unfortunately a bad movie. It's a major disappointment. I expect so much more, especially with the same team that did The Invisible Man. It's just like, what a mess. What a sloppy mess of a film this is. Number 10, Wolfman. Not the last time Universal will disappoint us early on in 2025. Case in point, number 9, Love Hurts, another one of the biggest disappointments of the year. I mean, you've got a movie that has 2 Academy Award winners, Ke Huy Quan and Ariana DeBose, and an action film produced by the team that gave us John Wick, Nobody, Violent Night, The Fall Guy. It's a good concept. A former hitman turned realtor who learns that his brother is hunting him when he reunites with his former partner, and I thought this was going to be the movie that was finally going to get Ariana DeBose out of that rut she's been in since she's won the Oscar for West Side Story. But no, this just continued that trend. Like seriously, fire the person that is giving you these scripts, because you have somehow surpassed Louis Gossett Jr. for having the worst post-Oscar stretch I have ever seen from somebody who won the Academy Award. Like, oh my god, this movie was unbelievably bad. And I think it was because the studio heavily interfered with this, because this thing's only 84 minutes long. And an action movie like this does not have that long of a runtime if it's going to be good. This is a movie that feels like it was chopped and screwed at the last minute, and it was basically the studio that interfered with this. I have to believe that that's it, because I don't blame the actors for this. The actors are not bad in here. Ke Huy Quan and Ariana DeBose are perfectly fine here, but the action sequences, the lame attempts at comedy they try to throw in here, like, I could not believe how bad this movie was. This was an insult of what these people behind the scene, the producers of this, are capable of. We've seen them make movies like this and have made it work. Violent Night took a badass Santa Claus played by David Harbour and made that amazing. Like, it's unbelievable how bad that movie was. It didn't even make back its money back. It made $17 million for an $18 million movie. It's just like, like, what more can you say about that? It's a bad movie. I don't blame the actors for this, but seriously, Ariana DeBose, just please get somebody else to pick your scripts for you, because you are not doing yourself any kind of service by picking these scripts, because you are destroying your career with movies like this, as bad as these films are. But I mean, yeah, we do want to see Ke Huy Quan and Ariana DeBose in better movies. We want to see Ke Huy Quan in an action movie. I think he could be a good leading action star, but here, I don't know what they were thinking when they made this movie. What a mess of a film this was. Love Hurts, number 9 on the list, and yeah, it hurt me to give this a bad review. It doesn't, however, hurt me to say that number 8 is pretty fucking awful, Kinda Pregnant, which proves that the reason why Trainwreck was such a good movie was because of Judd Apatow and not because of Amy Schumer, because, good lord, that career went downhill fast. Amy Schumer stars as a 40-something school teacher who gets envious when her lifelong best friend and colleague and another co-worker are both pregnant, leading her to steal a fake pregnancy belly to pretend to be pregnant. So they basically just took the plot of Labor Pains, that bland Lindsay Lohan movie that came out 13 years ago, and said, we can do this with Amy Schumer, it'll be funny. Spoiler alert, it wasn't funny. It was really, really awful. It was an unfunny piece of garbage. There's nothing about it that's funny. There's nothing about it that's clever. There's nothing about it that's engaging. It wastes so many good, talented people on this. Like, not much more you gotta say about this one. This was just a bad fucking movie, man. Like, it's no wonder why this got shipped straight to Netflix, and of course it was a big hit on streaming. Of course it was, because, people had to see for themselves how bad this movie was, and yeah, this was a bad fucking movie. Number 7 on the list, Star Trek Section 31, the first real bad thing to come from Star Trek under Alex Kurtzman. I mean, this is arguably, many people have argued that this is the worst thing to come out of Star Trek franchise. That's saying a lot, but I tend to agree with him, because, yeah, this is pretty bad. This is a spin-off film with Michelle Yeoh reprising her character from Star Trek Discovery, and it's a film set in the franchise's lost era between the original series and The Next Generation, following Philippa Georgiou as she works with Section 31, a secret division of Starfleet tasked with protecting the United Federation of Planets and must face the sins of her past. So what really made this movie not work? I think, really, it's a number of different things. One, it's trying way too hard to copy the Guardians of the Galaxy motif. I mean, this is a movie that's trying to work off of that element of the Guardians of the Galaxy movies and bring it into Star Trek, which, in the hands of a better writer and director, could be that case, but not the same man who gave us infamous disasters like The Devil Inside and The Fourth Kind. Actually, it's just The Fourth Kind, but still, The Fourth Kind was a piece of garbage. This isn't the same director that did The Devil Inside. He's done a lot of bad stuff too, but no, this is not the same. This is the director that gave us The Fourth Kind, which was one of the worst movies of 2009. I mean, just, would you really be that surprised at how bad this turned out to be? It's just the fact that of everything that Star Trek has done, this turned out to be the worst thing that they have ever done. That says a lot. I mean, this is the same franchise that gave us a William Shatner directed Star Trek movie, which was basically nothing but bad jokes, just a lazy excuse to bring God into the Star Trek universe and not do it very well at all. This is the same franchise that gave us Star Trek Nemesis, Star Trek Insurrection, which, to be fair, Nemesis was a whole lot better than Insurrection. I personally say Insurrection was the worst Star Trek film up until I saw this. I mean, this is definitely one of the worst things to come out of Star Trek ever, if not the worst thing possible. This is a terrible movie, not worth it at all. I couldn't believe how bad this was. Hey, let's burn this one to the ground once again. Number 6, How to Train Your Dragon. Let me go ahead and, put say something about this dumpster fire as I'm pissing on the ashes of it, because this is a terrible movie. This is a terrible movie, and I don't care that people like this more than the Disney live-action remakes. It's a piece of garbage. It's a movie that claims itself to be a shot-for-shot remake, and yet it's a movie that adds 30 minutes of pointless junk that you did not need, because the original movie is such a classic film. Yeah, there's parts of this I like. I like Mason Thames, I like Gerard Butler, and I like the vision of Toothless in a live-action film. But that still doesn't make this movie any good. It's nothing but a bland, shot-for-shot remake that adds stuff that isn't necessary, that doesn't make it a shot-for-shot remake. And it's made by the same person who was behind the original film, and there's just nothing of value to this whatsoever. It's a terrible movie. It's a lousy film. Like, this is garbage. This is a really, really bad movie. I don't care what anybody says. This is worse than anything that's come out of the Disney live-action remakes, bar none. Like, I'll stick with that till the day I die. That'll be right there with me saying that that Star Wars has been better under Disney. I will stick with that until the day I die. So yeah, I had something else there, but I just completely forgotten about it. But yeah, How to Train Your Dragon. What more can you say? Piece of garbage. Number 6 on the list. Number 5, another recent film that is really, really awful. 28 Years Later. Now this one isn't. It's different with me with this one compared to How to Train Your Dragon. How to Train Your Dragon was just a bad idea from the get-go, but 28 Years Later had the return of Danny Boyle and Alex Garland, the director and writer from 28 Days Later, and this was supposed to be the beginnings of the trilogy that we have, because we have this film, and supposedly 28 Weeks Later wasn't supposed to count, but if you watch the film, yeah, it counts. And of course we got The Bone Temple coming out in January, and the first half of the movie was good. I thought the performances by Aaron Taylor-Johnson, Jodie Comer, and the kid in this movie, Alexi Hawkins, I think it was. I believe it was. Let me see, just to make sure. Alfie Williams. I don't know why I don't know why I got that name, but Alfie Williams, who really was the big breakout of that movie in general. And the first half of the movie started off pretty good. It wasn't great overall, but it definitely was leading to something potentially good in the second half. But then that second half comes careening down, like, it's the equivalent. It's that second half is like the equivalent of watching the bombs dropping in Iran yesterday, but topical. But yeah, it's one of those things where it's just like, you've got to be kidding me, because the movie completely changes its tonal shift. And just really is something where it's just like, what the fuck are you guys doing? And then the end of the movie, where they literally reference a guy based off of somebody who was a notorious sexual predator, who was a famous entertainer in Britain, and they went with that pathway. It's just kind of like, that's the way you're going with this? That's the direction you're taking this? And it's just like, what the hell are they doing here? That's my first thought coming out of this. Just like, what the hell was that? Like, I don't believe it. I couldn't believe how badly this thing just botched itself, to the point where the film went from being something that was just okay early on, but then just completely goes careening off the cliff, and there's no turning back at this point. Like, this is a movie that has one of the most polarizingly bad endings I have seen in a long time. And it's one of those movies that's going to have a polarizing reception from most people. Some people are going to hate the shit out of it, but then there are people that are going to admire it. And I'm definitely on the side of hating it, because it made this movie jump up to the top 5 on my list of the worst movies of the year so far. That's how bad that second half was. 28 Years Later, there's no excuse for how bad that second half is, especially with how good the first half was. God, what a terrible movie. Number 4 on the list, one of the worst movies I've seen in this year, but also one of the most hilariously bad movie experiences I've had in a long time. The Weeknd's Hurry Up Tomorrow. And boy, if you thought that what's that show he was in? I had the name, The Idol. If you thought The Idol was bad, you haven't seen anything yet, because this is a movie where The Weeknd stars as a fictionalized version of himself, starring alongside Jenna Ortega and Barry Keoghan. In the film, he plays himself struggling with depression and insomnia, and gets pulled into an existential odyssey by Jenna Ortega. It is one of the most laughingly bad movies I've ever seen because it's one of those pretentious, over-the-top movies that makes Cool as Ice look saner by comparison. The fact that I had to say that Cool as Ice is a much more restrained movie than this says a whole lot. Like, this is unbelievable how bad this is, but it is one of the most hilariously bad movies ever. Just the line readings from The Weeknd in this. Shut the fuck up! Shut up! I got calls, like, stuff like that. It's just kind of like, you gotta be kidding me, man. Like, but it is one of the most hilariously bad movies I've ever seen. I mean, Jenna Ortega literally doing the dancing to Blinded by the Light, and having The Weeknd tied up on a bed where he's looking like George C. Scott in Hardcore. He's just like, turn it off. Like, I mean, it's a bad movie, yes, but it is one of the most laughingly bad movies I've ever seen. This could be one of those so bad it's good type of movies. It's one of the worst movies of the year so far, but it's definitely a movie that once it comes out on physical media, I gotta get some kind of a copy of this and watch it again because it's laughingly bad. Like, it's that type of a movie that's a so bad it's good movie. It's going to be one of those movies that's going to become a cult classic just on that front alone. But that's Hurry Up Tomorrow, number 4 on the list. Number 3 on the list. Speaking of movies where the mighty have fallen, what happened to Nicholas Stoller, man? Because, like, after Forgetting Sarah Marshall, his career just went straight down the tubes. I mean, yeah, he did write a lot of good stuff, but as a director, man, his career just took a nosedive. But You're Cordially Invited is definitely the latest attempt and latest bad movie that comes from somebody who should know a whole lot better, especially with the leads in here, Will Ferrell and Reese Witherspoon. When the weddings of widowed father Jim Caldwell's daughter Jenny and Margaret Buckley's sister Nev are double booked at the same small island venue, they both try to preserve the wedding weekend. And yeah, this movie was bad. This was bordering on Bride Wars level of bad because you have a story that is literally the same concept with two entitled people who just can't take the hint that, yeah, you have two weddings booked on the same day. Just move it to another day and then just go on with it. But no, we can't do that because we don't have a movie. This movie was unbelievably awful. Like, this is one of those comedies that doesn't know how to be funny, so it just resorts to screaming loud noises and using "I have anxiety" as its excuses for comedy. And I'm sorry, that does not work. Reese Witherspoon and Will Ferrell are completely wasted in this movie. There is nothing about them that's funny. Like, there's nothing about them that makes them watchable in this. They are just absolutely god-awful. I mean, this is a movie because, like in Bride Wars, it's a premise that can easily be solved in 2 minutes in the real world, but not in this movie because we have to spend nearly 2 hours figuring this out. And it's just like, oh my god, like watching it at home on Amazon was one of the most excruciating experiences I've had because it's just like I'm sitting in a chair watching this on my computer, and it's just kind of like it's one of those things where I'm squirming around, just like, get me out of this movie, please, for the love of God, when I could just literally get up. I felt like I was trapped watching this piece of shit. Like, that's how bad this is. Like, this is a film that I was not expecting to be this bad, and this is bad. This is up there with the 5-Year Engagement, the other movie that Nicholas Stoller directed, which is one of the worst comedies ever because, yeah, that's another movie where it's a rough watch because it's, again, wasting good talent on a terrible plot, lackluster comedy, and it was just torture to watch, just like this movie. That's what it felt like watching this movie. It was pure torture watching this. It wasn't funny, it wasn't clever, it wasn't charming. It sucks. This movie is god-awful. You're cordially invited. Yeah, you're cordially invited to go fuck yourself. Number 3 on the list of the worst movies I've seen so far this year. Moving on to number 2, another bad movie that's on a streaming service, The Electric State, which is, of course, produced and directed by the Russo brothers. And this was a movie that is set in a retro-futuristic past where you have Michelle, played by Millie Bobby Brown, who's an orphan teenager, traveling along the American West in search of her younger brother. And joining her on this journey is a sweet but mysterious robot and an eccentric drifter played by Chris Pratt, in a cast that includes a ton of notable names in here. I mean, Ke Huy Quan, Jason Alexander. Ke Huy Quan's on this list twice this year. I mean, I love this guy. I don't want to put him on this list because he was so great in Everything Everywhere All at Once. But you have Giancarlo Esposito, Stanley Tucci, Woody Harrelson, Anthony Mackie, Brian Cox, Jenny Slate, Hank Azaria, Coleman Domingo, and Alan Tudyk among the cast in here. And, like, this movie sucks. A $320 million movie made exclusively for Netflix, where you're never going to see that profit. No matter how hard you try, you ain't seeing that profit on this movie. Even if you release this in theaters, this movie would not be making money whatsoever. This is the type of movie that the Joker was trying to say with him burning the money in The Dark Knight. It's not about the money, it's about sending a message. And that message is with that Netflix, with one fucking movie, outdid Apple TV Plus in terms of how to waste more than $250 million on a piece of regurgitated garbage. Apple TV will at least have good movies in there like Killers of the Flower Moon or Spirited, but this is inexcusable. You don't spend $320 million on a project that you know you're never getting your money back on this. Even if you put this on the big screen, you're never making this money back here, because this script overall is just a bland, generic, mediocre movie about how AI is dangerous and like, we can't trust the future and all that. Just like, yeah, not really helpful on a streaming service where you're literally the future of movie watching to some people with these movies that you put out. But it wastes its cast of this. The worst part about this is that it has a half-assed message and an ending speech by Millie Bobby Brown about how important real life is, with this terrible music that sounds like something out of a bad commercial you would see, telling you it's okay to be afraid, you're not alone. Like, you expect the piano music to start playing. It somehow makes Harry Connick Jr.'s speech from Independence Day into a stronger speech by comparison. That's how bad this is. And it doesn't work because it's a hypocritical message for telling us how important real life is, with a speech that's more likely written by AI and ChatGPT, and you're watching this on a streaming service instead of having that message out there on a big screen. Like, this is unbelievable how bad this is. Everybody who's involved in this movie should be ashamed of themselves for putting this out there. Like, this is a terrible movie. They made toys and Funko Pops thinking that they were going to make a profit off of this. Like, nobody is going to buy Electric State stuff. Nobody. No one whatsoever. Like, this is one of the most inexcusable messes of a film I've ever seen in my life. This is unbelievably bad. This is one of the worst movies of the decade, The Electric State. And yet somehow one movie managed to top every other movie that I've seen so far this year to be one of the most annoying movies I've seen in a long time. Number one on my list, the movie that could possibly have killed movie theaters, and that is, of course, a Minecraft movie. The movie that basically nearly killed the movie-going experience for people when people decided to act like assholes by shouting out "chicken jockey" and just becoming complete animals inside of a movie theater. And I'm sorry, this movie is fucking garbage. Even if that didn't happen, this thing still sucks. This movie is not enjoyable whatsoever. There's no story. The comedy is terrible. The actors in here are completely useless. There's nothing of value of this film whatsoever. And the fact that this is a movie that is specifically made for TikTok influencers, brain-rotting TikTok influencers. That's how bad this is. This wasn't a movie made to entertain the masses. This was a movie made so they can have people in there act like complete jerks. Like, that's the reason why this movie was so fucking awful. It got so bad to the point that that movie theaters literally had to force people out of the theater because of how bad it is. There were people that were literally bringing live chickens into the movie theater and they got ejected. There were people setting off fire extinguishers, smoke bombs, fireworks. Like, this is inexcusable that they did this, and it's just like, I'm still baffled by how they let this go. Like, I mean, this is, like I said, this is a thing that could have easily killed the movie-going experience had the studios have been completely in on this idea that, yeah, people should do that. That's what we really need to up the movie experience. You had Jared Hess and Jack Black literally coming out supporting this, and I mean, just like, there's no excuse for this. There's absolutely no excuse for this whatsoever. And the people who made this movie should be ashamed of themselves because they didn't come out there straight on and say, hey, don't be assholes, don't do this. I know Jack Black did it later on, but he was the one that was egging them on early on when this whole thing started. And there's no excuse for defending this whatsoever. Absolutely none. A Minecraft movie is the worst movie of this year, and it's certainly going to be a contender for the worst movie of the decade so far, because that is how bad this movie is. It wasn't funny, it wasn't clever, it was stupidity. It was stupidness all across the board, and like, I just can't believe that this was a big hit. I could not believe that this made a ton of money. I'm getting flashbacks on how bad this was. This was unbearable to watch. So yeah, that is a Minecraft movie, the worst movie of 2025 so far. Hey, Warner Brothers, congratulations. You've got the best and worst movies of the year so far. Now let's see if you can actually hold on to that until the end of the year. Alright, so that's my best and worst movies of the year list. I could go into my best and worst TV shows of the year, but I'll save that for another time. But anyway, let's go ahead and get on to the recommendations for the week so we can go ahead and get on out of here. And it is a pretty busy new release weekend. The aforementioned the Minecraft movie gets its release this week. If you're one of those people that hates me for saying it's the worst movie of the year so far, it's coming out on Blu-ray this week, so take that for what you will. But in terms of new releases, there's a lot of notable new releases. The Monkey comes out on Blu-ray this week, as does Novocaine. Novocaine was a movie I wanted to go and see, but I never got around to doing so. And I've heard some good things about The Monkey overall, too, but of the 4 films that are coming out that I would recommend, it's surprisingly Snow White. Snow White is not a great movie overall, but it's still the best out of the 4 films that I've seen. I shouldn't even say that. It's better than a Minecraft movie, I'll tell you that much, but probably not as good as Novocaine and The Monkey. But those are the 2 I really want to check out. But Snow White's probably the best of the ones I've seen, but there's also a lot of good catalog titles. Bring It On is coming out on 4K thanks to Shout Factory. Road Trip is getting a nice Kino Lorber release, as is Mouse Hunt and also The Peacemaker. Dark City is getting an Arrow release this week, and Lethal Weapon's coming out on 4K for the first time, which I did not know that. I thought Lethal Weapon had already come out on 4K, but I could be wrong on that. But yeah, that's coming out on Blu-ray at some point, but this week. But that's coming out on 4K, I should say. But yeah, overall, really good week for movies in general, and definitely a lot of good stuff to get all across the board here. So with all that said, that's going to wrap this episode of the Reviewing Network Live up. Thank you guys so much for watching this, and I hope you enjoyed it, because if you did, go ahead and hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, and also check out the last episode I did, as well as our playlist with other episodes that we've done here, especially with us getting closer to our 100th episode, which should be coming up very, very soon. So definitely be on the lookout for that. But with all that said, thank you guys for watching and listening to this. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you guys next time. So until then, we are out.